if we're starting to affect the cranial nerve by constricting the throat and using these cheek muscles here to kind of do that, and then muscles in our throat, I don't know what muscles they are. But anyway, for the Ujayii breath, right, we sort of close that. There's a video of that, a little sample video somewhere in all these little lessons. And we start doing that, but it's this thing. And so that's doing a couple of things, I guess. You know, it's affecting the vagus nerve, part of our sensory system, and turning that, turning our attention inward to that. And it's also, you know, affecting the sense of hearing, the ears. So, but the thing that it, since it's going down and affecting all of those other organs, you can talk about the fact that our breathing is one of the things that we, well, it is the thing that we have control over in a system that otherwise works on autopilot. The autonomic nervous system, and so the autonomic nervous system, like I say, just for simplicity's sake, think of it as your autopilot. But what it does is it uses our sensory system to scan our world, you know, for danger, for any sort of threats. And if we do perceive those things, the autopilot makes changes in our body to prepare us for, I think everybody's heard this, you know, the flight or fight response. And then there's one, you know, like kind of even more severe of like freeze response. And those are all stress responses. And all of that, you know, like increased heart rate, restricted blood flow to certain organs, all these things. We don't have control over that, right? But the one thing that we do have control over is our breathing. We can consciously, you know, take control of that. And by doing that, we can actually affect the nervous system response. So the stress response, and that part of our nervous system is the sympathetic nervous system, and it's got a counterpart, the parasympathetic nervous system, that's called the rest and digest. And I'm going to put some slides in this week of all of this, you know, more detail of this, because again, I'm not an expert on it. But so the rest and digest side of our nervous system kind of does the opposite, that, you know, stress responses create kind of alarm bells and send our body into a kind of heightened awareness state, and you know, to fight something off. And the rest and digest, we it's also a, you know, can be a heightened state of awareness, but not for fighting, like a calm state, right? A calm awareness. So that breathing and having long, slow, even breathing is a way to help turn on the rest and digest side. And so we're going through this yoga practice, doing some pretty difficult physical things, right, that can tend to turn on a stress response, but we're at the same time training the body to keep paying attention to the breath. And so to keep using the rest and digest response. So we try to like balance those two things out. And so what's great about that is if you practice that every day, you know, in a controlled way, right? We're going through this practice and using those two, engaging those two systems, activating those two systems, and by turning the rest of our sensory system inward, really paying attention to what's going on there, then we've kind of done a workout to prepare us for life. You know, as you're going through your day, all kinds of stuff happens, and rather than go into flight or fight immediately, you know, screaming about something or, you know, having some stress response, we've had some practice with controlling that and trying to respond to things from a more balanced perspective, from a more balanced chemical even, what I don't know what I want to call it, state, I guess, a state. We know more how to bring ourselves and keep ourselves in a state of equilibrium between those two feelings, you know. Like, I guess sometimes, like, I've thought that, you know, I know very well what it feels like to be stressed and how to respond in stress, and I'm pretty good at that. But there are times that I don't respond well in that, and I have these certain patterns that I wish, you know, that I could change. And so the best way for me to start to change that is to understand what it feels like to be calm, to be more at equilibrium, and not to be so drawn up by the stress response and the emotion of a stress response. So to have some awareness of that, that's like kind of the first step, is like being able to recognize that heightened stressed state. Because if you've lived like that most of your life, you don't even know that it's happening until you get to see the difference. And the way to get to see that difference is practicing this controlled breathing. And if somebody had told me, oh, you know, sit and do breathing exercises, there's no way that I would have ever done that. But because I'm such a physical person, doing the Ashtanga practice, you know, with it being so physical, I'm drawn to that. And so then I can be led along to work on the breathing as I'm doing that physical exercise. Yeah.